Now, before being the co-founder of the Hempstreet company based out of India, he was also the co-founder and chief growth officer of a little thing called T9L based out of India, and it's a startup incubator or a startup studio, if you will, and it's valued at a measly $600 million US across 30 different startups. Yeah, I would say that he's got a proven track record when it comes to starting up companies. And if he's running something as a chief growth officer, he could scale companies, and it seems like Hempstreet is going to be no different. So I'm excited to bring to you guys this week Abhishek Mohan, Abhi, as I've come to know him across the last couple weeks, working together and working on future projects that we can't really talk about. But there's a lot in the works for India and also Hemp 101 as we explore the cannabis industry that is in India. So without further ado, here's the co-founder of Hempstreet based out of India, my friend Abhishek Mohan. Welcome everybody. We've got Abhi here from, you're not calling from India, you're calling from
Manila under lockdown.
That's right, yeah. And I couldn't remember exactly where you were calling from, but I knew it was Southeast Asia. How's the weather over there?
It's good actually. It's super hot in the day, kind of like pleasant in the afternoon, rains in the evening, so it's perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is it monsoon?
I mean, the occasional typhoon, but you know, that's fine. That's fine.
Is it monsoon season right now?
Supposed to be, but it's a little bit gray outside, but it's supposed to be. So I think about middle of July we'll see like a proper rain start. Middle of June, proper rain.
Yeah, a couple weeks, not too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I moved here from Florida, and so hurricane season, you know, getting ready for that, it's almost like a ritual every year. It's an annual ritual. So I totally know what you're going through over there.
Yeah, you guys have stuff on steroids. I mean, like hurricanes, tornadoes. Like we don't have anything that you can really make movies about, but except the infrastructure is not very good, so we take a big hit. But the actual, fierce, the ferocity of the climate stuff that you guys have is, next level.
Yeah. I guess go big or go home in America, right? So, Abhi, how can everyone follow along on your journey to see how Hempstreet's going to be kind of going up forward in the future?
Well, you could, check out hempstreet.in and also look at our Facebook page. Look at us on. I think we do very little on Instagram, but also Instagram. A little bit on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, Abhishek Mohan, or you can just look for Hempstreet, and you'll find me. And I'm getting to be a little bit more sharey, so I'll share more stuff. So apparently it's important. So yeah, follow us and see what we're up to. And yeah.
All right, and we'll put all that stuff below in the description for all the viewers out there.
Sounds awesome.
All right,
cool.
So. You've got a new company coming out. It's already out and fully, kind of functioning operational right now. Hempstreet, based out of India. It's got some big backers going for it. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Hempstreet?
So essentially, we're India's first research to retail venture in the medical cannabis space, right? So we've got a top-notch research relationship with the apex body for research in India. We have a network of 60,000 doctors and 300 clinics, and we've just gotten 16 approved products, primarily in pain relief, women's health, and those are the two: pain relief, women's health, anxiety. I mean, traditional uses of cannabis in Indian culture, but taken back, researched and productized as a professional, kind of a semi-pharma company.
And so with Hempstreet, you guys just have Series A funding right now.
Pre-Series A.
Pre-Series A.
So I'll explain why.
Yeah, and well, it's mostly just to kind of educate the listener of what exactly that means, because a lot of the cannabis industry right now is privatized, but there are, the big players that are kind of going public, and, there's the different types of funding out there, private equity versus what you guys are doing with pre-Series A, Series B, et cetera. Can you kind of educate the listeners a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. What happened now, which I wanted to update you, the government of India has now banned any CBD or hemp, CBD is illegal, any hemp products to be sold on third-party e-commerce sites like Amazon or Flipkart. Flipkart is like our Amazon.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because there were a bunch of shady operators. They said, now, if you really want to sell it on a pharma site like NetMeds or 1mg.com.in, I think, because then you have to go through due diligence, you have to send your product and all that stuff. Otherwise, people are importing bullshit, labeling
Really?
whatever. And so, yeah, that's what happens in the beginning of every industry.
Right.
So that's what we want to clean up. And we're voluntarily, we're basically giving away the keys to tracking our own ecosystem to the government so that they can at any point look inside and see if you're overselling or whatever shit. Because that's what the industry needs. I don't care if I don't lose some money in the short run, but in the long run, that's going to happen.
Right.
So, so because of this, and now our retail network that we've already built is become worth gold, right? Because it's a responsible place to dispense. It's not on the internet. It's a physical location where a doctor is always there, and we have a check and balance. So also, I do wear another hat, having been in the startup business for since 2000, and I don't know. I mean, if you actually look at it, how when I was involved, it would be maybe 1995 when I was 14, but 2005 as making my own money. I've been in the startup business, seen several businesses go, start up, go bust, and go public as well. So I've seen the whole spectrum. What you learn from that is there's a lot of euphoria around. Let's raise as much money as we can. Let's do all that stuff. In Hempstreet, we decided that we didn't really need that much money, right? So we had built this world-class distribution network. We had top-notch government and private research relationships. That doesn't take much money if it's a partnership, right? So we raised only how much we needed to get our products to a stage where they were approved. And which is why a Series A with pre-Series A is we have a seed investment, which is like friends and family. They give you $100 grand and, they help you out. And pre-Series A is kind of after seed, when you've gotten onto your feet and you kind of feel like you have you kind of have a product that's coming up. And then Series A is when you've got a product market fit and you want to scale. Series B is when you're trying to go to get a dominant position. And then Series C and everything is just trying to own the industry. And so that's how it works. Like you've seen, best examples would be some of the unicorns like Uber or whoever else. They went through that stage. I think they reached like Series F, right? Where basically they were just raising billions and billions and billions because they were trying to reboot infrastructure. Essentially ride hailing was uprooting infrastructure, right? So I look at it that way. So some people say, oh, it's a waste, a lot of money, but they had to create a market. They had to basically, it's like building a rail system all over again, right? So it took a lot of money. But in our case, that's not the case. We have a plant that is indigenous to India. We have top-notch research in India. We have an active medical practice which prescribes cannabis in the traditional Indian methodology. All we needed to do was to legitimize it, basically make sure that everything, quality was good, research was good, and that the products were reliable. That's all we've done, and you don't need much money for that.
And how long have you guys been working on those products?
Well, 2 years now. So 2 years, and we've got 16 products. And I think I'll take a step back to explain it because I'm sure your viewership is largely Western, right? And I feel it's my responsibility to kind of explain how cannabis works in India. So in India, we have a system of medicine called Ayurveda, which unknowingly almost everybody in the West is using. Like every time you take curcumin or turmeric or tulsi or ashwagandha, they're things that people consume. All the herbal stuff that you consume is technically traditional Indian medicine, right? And yoga has become a global phenomenon. So, in India, as a culture, we have never been an invading culture. We've always been soft diplomats, right? So in soft diplomacy, that's why people don't, nobody says, oh, let's go beat up the Indians ever, like, ever in any country. Because we just do our thing and we're happy to give you our food and stuff like that. So Ayurveda is a section of Indian medicine that's followed by about 70% of the country. And it's focused on wellness. It's not they do have cures for basic ailments and it's very, and in the last 15 years, it's gone from being a suppressed kind of witch doctor kind of perception to a highly advanced system. They have their own, 5-year degrees. They have their house urgency and everything. The same thing as a medical degree, and it's fully, CGMP factories, tightly controlled quality. So basically, that's a very large part of Indian medicine that coexists with Western. And in Ayurveda, cannabis has been used for hundreds of years for various ailments, but there are about 2,000 formulations. Let me know if I'm talking too fast because that's like my problem.
No, not at all. Okay. Not at all. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, so it's always been part of Indian culture and Indian medicine. It is being prescribed in its raw form currently. All we did was took it to a level where it can be produced like any other Western medicine. It can be quality controlled. It can be dispensed responsibly. So you're not just giving weed to a bunch of kids, right? And and we can dispense it responsibly. So that's what we've done. So where people say cannabis in its Canadian or German or American form is illegal in India, that this is flower, but it's actually very well active and already a big market. It's starting out in India, but in its own way, in Ayurvedic medicine, not in the dispensary recreational style that you see in the West.
So compared to the United States, and it's like you said, the Western form, the flower is not legal. So are you saying, not to say that we're doing it wrong, but are you saying that the States and the Western medicine, quote
No,
unquote, is doing it wrong?
no, they're not actually. So in the US and Canada, it started off as a recreational push, right? So, I mean, of course you have dispensaries, but most of your sales is coming from recreational. In India, what happened is, I mean, it was completely all over. You people were smoking, growing it, everything until 1985, when America forced us to ban it. They forced us to ban it. It was actually not. It was they were more concerned about the opium and the heroin that came from Afghanistan and all that stuff. But it was a blanket ban, and those days nobody could argue with America, and India was a young country. We said okay. We were exempted for, it was originally banned in the 60s. We were exempted for 25 years. And then again in the 80s, it was completely banned. So as a result, it's still, from a legislative point of view, it'll still take a few somersaults to get recreational, if at all. But for us as Hempstreet, why we did do all we do is because of the extreme pain relief crisis in India. I mean, that's been our root cause. So I would love to make beauty products and all that. I mean, eventually we probably would, CBD and all that crap. But right now, only 8% of Indians who need pain relief get it. It's criminal, and on the other hand, you've got the opioids guys in the sidelines because they've been kicked out of the US. They're in the sidelines. We have states like Punjab where there are villages with no male members because they've all died of opioid addiction.
Wow.
So it's insane. Yeah. So we have basically zero pain relief or addictive opioids. But, opioids are required. I mean, I would never say they're not. For palliative care, for cancer, you need them. I would never, ever deny people that needed that. But not for a back pain, not for pain that you have carrying your kids. That's not what you get opioids for. So we think cannabis will be able to alleviate at least 90% of the reason. And also with the way we are dispensing it, we're deploying a tracking system where we can't, even our greed is checked. So, I know that I'm going to get greedy once we see money rolling and you just want to sell more and more and more and more. But we're deploying a blockchain-based solution that is being finalized, where our doctors cannot overprescribe. Our raw material we cannot. It's India, I mean, we could, people try to do cut corners sometimes. Even we won't be able to do that. We'll make sure the raw material allocation is there, and we cannot exceed it, no matter who we pay or who we try to do. The second is doctors cannot overprescribe, so no pill mills, and patients cannot overpurchase, and we will not do the e-prescription stuff. We will sell it from our locations on the ground where the doctor is held responsible for dispensation. So I think there's a way to provide pain relief for maybe 200 million people that don't get it,
Which is huge. That's a huge number. I mean, just on a
that's
daily
more than
basis.
half your population, man.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, because on a daily basis, people live with some form of pain.
In rural India, people are just committing suicide for arthritis and stuff like that. People can't, and they work, these are rural people. They work in the farms. Mm-hmm. There's no concept of retirement. It's not Sweden, so these guys need to live their lives and they cannot live. It's injustice, really.
You're exactly right. I mean, that's why I think that a lot of people are fighting so hard for it. And I was paying attention to Richard Rose is one of my followers, and I follow him on LinkedIn. And he posted that the FDA has just opened the comments for legalization of cannabis in the United States.
Yes, I read about it. Yeah.
Which is huge. I mean, that's huge, and if you guys are already prescribing it over there and you guys already have an infrastructure in place and logistics in place to circulate it all across the entire country of India, it's like, hey, America, wake up. Let's take a look across the pond and see what India is doing.
Absolutely. And pharmaceuticals in India has come a long way. I mean, we've gone from being dependent on the world to being the world's manufacturer today. We come up with patents. We are producing all the vaccines. We're coming up with research around it. So, India's come full circle, just like with IT, right? We were kind of the back office of the world, but today you have world-class edtech companies, world-class, transportation companies coming out of India. And then we are kind of a responsible power. I would say nobody really is afraid of the rise of India because we will just, probably have more Indian restaurants or stuff like that. We've always been considered a friend of the world. for thousands of years. We've never turned away anybody. So that's why we are being looked at as the alternative to China, which I won't comment on because I don't, again, know enough about that. But that's, and I just want to touch upon one part. The second stakeholder for any agricultural revolution, right, is the farmer. Like, so every time we've had an industry that's come up in agriculture, big agriculture takes it, the farmer gets screwed. But in India, we had a fantastic initiative called Amul. I'll send you the link later. It's the milk union. So this guy, and this amazing person, he what 50 years ago, he saw that milk just like farmers in India, cattle growers had just 3 or 4 cows. They didn't have the scale to go to market, and they would get screwed over by the middleman who paid them 1/19th of the price. So he created a union that was owned by them, where they could come in and give their milk at a standard price. They would homogenize it and then pack it and sell it. And Amul today is doing, I don't know, billions of dollars in revenue, and those farmers were lifted out of poverty. The same thing with cannabis. So in India, 83% of our farmers have less than 3 hectares. I mean, what the hell are you going to make selling rice from those 3 hectares? Nothing. But with cannabis, we can make a change, and we are committing. I'm going to say it on this interview, so it'll be on the internet. I commit that more than at least 50%, when we are allowed to contract farm, which hopefully will be soon, more than 50% of our raw material will be sourced from farmers with less than 3 hectares. And you can print this, you can put this on the internet, so you can hold me against it.
Do you guys have a goal of how much real estate you guys are trying to put under Hempstreet, or is it just?
No,
I mean, obviously,
we'll grow for research. I have no intention to become a massive farmer. I want this to be the next revolution. Like, I want local farmers to have a cash crop. It has to, you can harvest it 3 times a year, depending on where you are. I mean, it's better than any other crop, and it's a way out for a lot of farmers with small land. And yeah.
And which area of India grows better for cannabis? Because I mean, obviously, you guys have the different elevations. I mean, the closer north you get to the Himalayas, would it be south? Would it be central?
Basically, north central. So you've got Uttar Pradesh. My geography is terrible again. So, but we have Uttar Pradesh, which is growing a lot of hemp. Hemp is legal to grow, and cannabis is following. And then we have Madhya Pradesh. I'll send you the names later. Madhya Pradesh, and then you have the northeast near China, which grows, but illegally grows a very good quality cannabis, and which are more our ideas to actually engage that government, which I am, to be able to turn that into a legal grower, so they don't have a law enforcement problem, and the farmers can openly grow and make money off what they're doing, as long as the supply chain is controlled. So we grow in those 3 areas, and also in the south in Kerala, where incidentally I was born. So those are the 4 areas that it grows in.
And is that based on your strategy of, I guess, the geography of India, or is that just that's the only places that really can grow it that well?
No. It's currently where it's growing wild is what I'm talking about. But farming, we have way more places we can grow it.
Okay.
Like you said, near the Himalayas, near in Jammu, where we have a top-notch laboratory, and a lot of research growing is happening there. So yeah, we can grow it in many. I mean, India is a vast land. I mean, we can grow it in a ton of places. Yeah.
Now, tell me a little bit more about the form that you guys are using. We had a little chat about it. I can't remember exactly what the difference is based on, what you guys are legally able to do versus what the flower is in the States.
So basically, we can't sell flower, right? So we buy raw material from the government currently, and it's something called bhang. Bhang has been traditionally consumed during festivals. It's actually kind of legal, and so it's like a full spectrum kind of crush, which is like the leaves and the stem mainly. And from that, you can draw extracts, you can do, but isolating CBD, THC is illegal. Although we are currently undertaking a research project. You can do research on whatever you want, as long as it's covered by the government in a government facility. So we're doing research on all forms of stuff. Because, I mean, we also want to, be on par with the rest of the world when we arrive. So we're doing research on that, but you can't sell flower. That's I mean, not legally. Of course, you can buy it, but not legally. And what the raw material you get from the government is basically something called bhang. I'll send you the long definition. So you get an idea of what the components are, but it's full spectrum basically.
Okay. And whenever you guys are doing the research, what kind of research are you guys working on right now? Because with the classification of cannabis in the United States, we can't do any research.
So the good part is, see, the Indian scientific community. So India, during the move towards sort of socialism, which kind of failed in in the 60s and in the 70s and 80s. We built, and also with a lot of help from the US and Soviet USSR, we built a lot of technology research and educational institutions. So the CSR, which is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, is a top-notch body. So because when you're doing research at a government body, they're allowed to try anything, right? Because it's controlled. But as a private player, I mean, I have not experienced any private player doing any research independently in India, because you have to work with the CSR is one of the only bodies that can touch cannabis, and they are amazing scientists. These guys have, I mean, the person heading it is a Nobel nominee, and the guys are they're just science gangsters, like, and they're driven by that. I love working with them. So we're doing research on lots of stuff, on the effects for epilepsy, on a bunch of ailments. Also, the isolation of THC CBD. What are the best extraction methods? We're also doing research on a product that I can't discuss how. It'll be a world first, actually.
Okay.
And it's not an Ayurvedic product. It'll be a Western product. So I would most likely bring it out to you to talk about it in the US. But that's early stages. I can't really discuss that now. But we're just, because research gives you a free hand, especially working with the government. So we're doing research on various projects, and so are a lot of the other players in the industry, and the few other players in the industry.
But so how big would you say is the industry in India compared to the United States?
Well, so the Ayurvedic medicine industry, I'm still at confirm, but it's about 6 billion US, the Ayurvedic medicine industry, but that's everything. But cannabis is an important part of it. So right now, I would say it's it's because nobody has products yet, right? I mean, it's only been doctors prescribing leaves mixed up with potions and stuff. So we are pioneering at the scale that we're doing it. We're the pioneers. So I would say, I'll tell you in August.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll get the exclusive, right?
Yeah, for sure. Done.
All right.
I mean, my idea is pain relief thing. We have a chance to do something. For once, people will look at India and say, you know what? Those guys did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were not greedy. Those guys were able to achieve the social aspect of it, has been considered at the beginning, and 20 years later, it's still there. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to be known for.
And that's good to see. It really is, because Richard Rose got on the show and he mentioned something that was pretty powerful to me. It kind of really struck home. He said that the business aspect of what they were doing in the early days was a form of activism. And so,
Yes.
with the pushing of, the businesses like yourself, whether it's going public or staying private across the ocean, or here, at home with us in the United States, I mean, it was really fascinating, and I'm sure it was across the globe, to see that America, where cannabis was so demonized, that America has just found or just announced that cannabis is an essential form of business that needs to stay open during a global pandemic.
Yeah, and in India, we're just coming back home, man. I mean, it was part of our culture. And again, I will not comment on recreational, because that's a government decision. And really, I mean, between somebody having the freedom to smoke a joint and somebody actually dealing with joint pain, I'm going to go with the guy dealing with joint pain. So that's really the long and short of it. I don't share that same kind of like, across the board legalization, because I think if you fight for everything, then the people that are losing out majorly. Like, oh yeah, I feel bad that you can't have a dispensary like Canada, but it's even worse that some guy that has no power or voice is now being held back because we want to be able to smoke joints in nightclubs. That should not be the reason why somebody in rural India can't get his pain relief.
Mm-hmm. And same thing here on the streets in the United States,
Yeah.
because if we didn't have the medical program, then we wouldn't be where we're at today. If there
Absolutely.
wasn't an actual medical efficacy of the plant and the actual remedies that it provides, then, the kids wouldn't have had those, life-changing stories that have affected the entire
Absolutely.
globe, so
Absolutely.
It's really good to see. It's really good to see. So once you guys go from the Ayurveda to the Western side, how long, what is your timetable on something like that? I know, the Indian government probably sees it, completely different. It's more of a holistic health approach with the use of cannabis versus the United States, which is big farm. And, everybody knows the travesty that is the big farm industry. Pharma, not farm. Yeah, also just big pharma, because I don't want it to be, misconstrued that I'm going after the farmers. Not at all. I support the farmers 100%, because if we didn't have farmers, obviously we wouldn't be able to survive. So
Exactly.
with big pharma, it's a really affecting Western medicine. People that are out there like Dr. Uma up in Boston, up in the New England area, is really fighting the good fight with all of this. Where do you guys see the kind of codependency or coexistence of what Ayurveda is versus Western cannabis?
So there is a movement. I mean, as long as it remains medical, the Indian government is all ears. I mean, contrary to what people say, they have never kind of, in terms of medical, we have, in most of India, the middle class has access to pretty good medical, especially where I grew up in Kerala. It's kind of socialist. So yeah, so right now there is research. I mean, we are doing research. There's a few others. CSR themselves are doing research on a Western sort of isolates, CBD. All the research is ongoing. So I don't think from the medical point of view, I think it'll happen fast. It'll happen fast, and we will leverage the technologies that are in Israel or in the US or in Canada and our own indigenous stuff. So it'll happen. But so again, recreational will always be a question mark. And I don't know how that will change. But on medical, I'm very confident that we will follow the Western model very, very quickly. But Ayurveda will not, because Ayurveda is traditional. In the Ayurvedic formulations, there was never a concept of CBD or THC or any of that stuff. So, I mean, if there was, then wow, there was some lab that we didn't know about in history. But so I think it'll be in parallel. So it'll happen. It'll happen. Like for cancer burns, cancer treatment. We're also looking at some research projects on that.
Uh-huh.
So while we understand where the legality is in the market and the need is right now, we're also very well aware of how India is, semi-Western, right?
Yeah, and
So
I think
I'm speaking to you in English, and and I understand American
right.
pop culture, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of people think that it's more of a political term, to say third world or developing nation compared to what we consider ourselves as, just based on technology or
Money.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, but like that, like if we look at really the money, I mean, we're on paper, what, $13 trillion in debt and counting. I mean, what is the United States really?
Yeah, the fact that you can attract that debt means you're an attractive market. So I think, and you print the world's currency, right? So it doesn't make a problem for you. And I mean, at the end of the day, America has been the source of almost a lot of the innovation in modern times, right? I mean, every model, whether it's financial, whether it's technological, it has been kind of an American experience, military, whatever. I mean, America has played a dominant role in recent times, in the last 100 years. He's played a dominant role, and you can't ignore that. And that's how it is,
Yeah, it is what it is, as they say.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so I guess speaking on that, America's not really dominating in the research side of the house with cannabis. I mean, like you said, you guys have more freedom of movement with that. Yes, the universities are starting to do onesies and twosies here, and those are popping up more and more frequently. More universities are coming up with cannabis programs, whether that's from the agricultural standpoint or from the medical standpoint. So what countries besides India are you seeing that are really coming up with, a lot of groundbreaking research in cannabis?
I'll tell you which countries would be suitable for it. So in India, it's happened because medicinal plants were always a big part of Indian medicine. So like CSR in Jammu, their facility, which, my invitation's open, by the way, to come to India, I'll take you there. So
right.
Yeah, unless some war breaks out, I think we'll have no problem. But yeah, so, so unless some travel advisory. So when you have a medicinal plants oriented, culture, you're constantly doing research on it. So as you modernize, so CSR is doing research on 200 medicinal plants, and cannabis is one of them. So when you have that orientation, that's why we've been able to be quite active on the cannabis front, culture, and also the orientation towards medicinal plants. So I think countries with that orientation will lead. But given that, I think Israel is just, because they're such a tiny country and they have basically no local market for anything, right? So they basically have to build global tech, and I have great respect for them. And so I think Israel is clearly, I would say, top of mind when I think of R&D of any kind, because their orientation on academics, their orientation on research, their funding for research, their military funding for research that gets eventually gets declassified and comes into civilian. They're always fighting a war. I don't know who's right or who's wrong there. Again, I don't know enough about the Middle Eastern conflict to say who's right or who's wrong. But just their orientation towards military and research, they're just head and shoulders above everybody.
Whenever we first got started, me personally, there was a guy that, Israel was announcing that they were doing clinical trials on CBD. And so a lot of, at the time, hemp brands were submitting their products to be included in that. So, I mean, Israel, like you said, it's always been kind of with the ties that it has with the United States, as an ally.
So the guy who's working with them was the original guy that isolated THC and CBD in the 60s. So he's the guy who did it first.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll get him. He's old, but I'll get them on your podcast. Don't worry. They love.
Awesome.
They're really cool guys. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
I like to say that I go after the key players right now because, as it changes, like I pulled up LinkedIn earlier today and I've gotten 3 people that want to come on the show. Another one that wants me to come on theirs. I mean, that's just a business podcast. So, it's nothing special. It's not really hemp or cannabis, but they want me to talk about cannabis. And so, like I said, with my background, traveling internationally, being in the military, going to Spain, Ireland, Germany, Peru, Colombia, Afghanistan, Iraq. I mean, all over the world, just to have that understanding of, the different types of cultures, and then to see one industry really bring a lot of people together, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are going through pain,
yep.
and what else is out there besides, the synthetics and everything? It's cannabis. It's something that everyone across the globe can literally get behind. I'm a firm believer that if cannabis is legal in Afghanistan, if the United States will get the fuck out of there and let them grow their crops, cannabis will jumpstart the Afghanistan economy again. I'm a firm believer in that. So with the size of the industry that you guys are going to be, I guess, dealing with over in India compared to the United States, everything is kind of seasonal work. And you guys are going to be really kind of having to sustain a huge industry over there. What kind of labor conditions are you guys going to have? Is it going to be unions? Is it going to be, can you expand a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. So farmer unions. So I'm not going to become a mega farmer. It's not my business. Why should I? I mean, this is, like I said, 83% of Indian farmers have only 3 hectares, which means they have been left to be exploited. Right. So, I mean, because, and also they can't survive one bad crop and they're done. You understand? So, I mean, the government has really tried to provide, implements and try to do reforms. There's only so much they can do if the crop itself does not, provide the kind of cash cushion that cannabis could probably could. So I want to leave them in their existing structure, but make it worth their while. We'll see we'll get technology from abroad that allows them to grow low cost. Because of the scale of India, we can negotiate very good rates for any tech, right? So basically provide them with the best practices, make sure all their produce is bought. And the marijuana plant is a tough plant. It's the plant that can grow in pretty hard, pretty trying conditions. And there's a parallel hemp industry that's taking off. So all this together will provide them a cash crop. So I want to leave the structure as is. I'm not going to try and consolidate into some kind of, Monsanto or some crazy, huge company. No, leave India like it is. But provide them a livelihood in the way that they know how to live.
So speaking of that, the history that has kind of been, polarizing, I guess, from the security standpoint for India is Pakistan and India relations. How do you see cannabis being a player in something like that once, say, the international borders are open, you guys can import and export?
Very hard. I mean, the narrative right now is not good. I mean, as much as again, it's very intricate. It's been a long conflict, British times. And so I really have no idea how that's going to play out, because we don't even play cricket games in each other's countries, I would think, at this point. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Speaking of cricket,
yeah.
Speaking of cricket, I was watching a game a couple of years ago, and that thing seemed to go on forever.
So we have different formats.
Yeah.
We have different formats.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. It's a very interesting game. Because I'm not educated on it. I can't really talk about it. Just for my own edification, just kind of talk about something besides cannabis. How is cricket played?
Well, basically it's baseball, but we let the ball bounce.
Interesting.
And if somebody catches you without a bounce, it's out. You're out. It's not like baseball where you're gonna throw it at the base. And then we have just 2 bases that you run across.
You're just right back and forth.
Yeah,
and then
it's sticks on each side.
3 sticks, yeah.
Yeah, that you defend. You defend the sticks, and you try to hit it. If you hit it over the ropes, you get 6 points. If you hit it bouncing past the ropes, you get 4 points, and then whatever you run. But if somebody hits the sticks before you cross that line, you're out. If you fail to defend the sticks, you're out. If you hit the ball and somebody catches it, you're out, basically.
And so how
And we
long
have
does
different formats. We have
right?
different formats here. So just like races, right? You've got the drag race, American. And you got drag race. You've got you've got the Formula One race. It's slightly longer, and then you have the Le Mans 24-hour race, right?
Right.
So basically, it's like that. So you've got the 2020, which is like a half-day format, a little over half a day. Then you have the one-day format and the 5-day format.
5 days?
5 days where you
Oh
keep coming
my
out.
God.
It's like you keep playing innings, right? You play 2 innings each,
So
and yeah, it could go on forever.
why 5 days?
Because it's I guess it was the cricket gentleman's endurance sport. I don't know.
Yeah, because
Like,
oh
how can
man,
you? Oh, let's
right.
get a sup for some tea and then play for another 24 hours. You know, English people in there. You know.
So, with going back to cannabis and hemp, hemp is a huge crop for you guys in the region, and same with China. I don't know how. I mean, this is going back to what you said. My geography right now is terrible. I mean, I've heard. Okay, so Romania, India, China are key players. Pretty much all Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia is hemp is a huge market for you guys. How do you see the hemp industry kind of evolving from the textiles into the CBD, playing into the Western influence of cannabis in India?
The key is legislation, right? So the moment CBD becomes kind of acceptable, we'll look at the most efficient way to make it. So, I mean, whether it's hemp, whether it's really high yielding strains of 22%, 17, 18% CBD, depends, different approaches, but it's here to stay. I mean, hemp in general is now evolving. There are some guys looking at Hempcrete and hemp bricks. And then, we're also talking to a bunch of people around the world. I mean, I speak to whoever, and people have talked about various uses of hemp, some that I know of, some that I'm learning about. So it's here to stay. And as more capital goes into the industry, as more states legalize the growing of it, we'll see more use of it as well. I mean, the eco-friendliness, the sustainability. I mean, the disadvantage, I would say, advantage in some ways for developing countries is that we skip all the inefficient stuff, right? So basically, as we develop, we didn't go to landlines, we went straight to cell phones. We didn't go to landed internet, we went largely to mobile internet. So same thing with the responsibility towards the environment that we have. It doesn't exempt you because you're a developing country, right? So, and hemp has that potential. I mean, the more I listen to activists, the more I read about it. I don't have a super educated opinion on everything about hemp, but I feel like hemp is is a major alternative to all the other nonsense that we're using right now.
And so, is that something that Hempstreet is looking at?
See, right now our primary focus is to deliver that pain relief, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that once we have that going, of course, we look at every. I mean, if you're dealing with the industry, might as well. And if not us, then we will. I mean, we'll. At this stage in India, I would say it on every forum, there is no competition. It's an industry building exercise. Nobody hates anybody. I'm happy to elevate anybody. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And I have no secrets. Like, I've essentially told you my strategy, but that's how it is, and that's how it should be. Like, we can't chop ourselves down before we've even gotten anywhere.
And it's pretty much, it's almost like the moon race, back in the Cold War, for us. It's who can build the best product, going for which industry is hemp going to disrupt? Like you said, hempcrete, the beauty products, bedding, animal feed. There's a huge market for all of that, and it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of folds into it. But there's a lot of legalities that are kind of limiting that, and also the mindset that is, the typical American that is just straight ignorant when it comes to plant-based versus what mainstream media and Western medicine says. So with that being said, with the Ayurveda and hemp being in culture all across of India and that region of the world, what message would you say to Americans listening, or people in the United States or across the globe, of the powers of hemp and cannabis that you guys have seen, not just from the medical side?
Oh, absolutely. And we are an agrarian society, right? I would say a large part of our population works in agriculture. We're a developing country. We're not a rich country. Animal husbandry is a big part of what we do as a people. I mean, not me, but I have to be aware of what my country is, and it provides employment. It's the people that give us food. I mean, the importance of farmers. You cannot elaborate enough, right? In history, civilizations have grown up have come out of river, silt riverbeds, basically river basins and areas of rivers where you could grow stuff, and that was the biggest paradigm shift to humans, right? When you stop hunting and gathering and you realize how to farm. So I mean, we haven't changed that. We still have to eat, right? Nobody's compressed food down to a tablet that you can take every day. I mean, sci-fi said it, but it hasn't happened yet. So, and cannabis and hemp, like, yeah, it's got a. I mean, there's a reason why it was ingrained in our culture, which is one of the oldest cultures in the world, right? I mean, we were wrong about a lot of things, but clearly we were right about a lot of others, right? So I think, I mean, technology is great, and also Western medicine, right? The whole idea that we need to compete with Western medicine, it's not true. I mean, we can coexist. Wellness and, digestive problems, stuff like that, Ayurveda is perfect for. Emergency care, like if my arm fell off, I'm not going to put turmeric on it. I'm going to call 911, right? And get somebody to fit it back on, right? So we can coexist. I think that has been created by industry. It's been created by the need to push down one to succeed or to change the viewpoint of people. And today, as we become more aware, we have to know that everything is everything is available to you today. Educate yourself and then make an educated decision. I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. I think that everybody sees social media, they see what they want to see on Google because they type in a search, and everything is optimized to pretty much deliver what that person is specifically looking for at that point in time. So their opinion and their mindset of what quote unquote reality is can be formed, at a keystroke. And it's fascinating, like you said.
And there's so much to learn from everybody. For example, I have great respect with, I've never known anybody that's built their own house or repaired their own, their own car, sort of, my dad, but the American, suburban American culture of building your own home, which is crazy, like repairing your own shit, DIY, fixing your own cars, like at age 15 and 14. I have tremendous respect for that. But I mean, obviously you also have your other side of like not knowing some, really critical stuff, but everybody can learn something from everybody. There's no either or, there's no better or worse. There's none of that. We're all individuals because of the internet and the world that we live in today. Nobody cares what your culture gave you. Nobody cares what war you won in the past that you had nothing to do with. Nobody cares about any of that. They care about you, which is good and bad. It's good because you don't come with any baggage. It's bad because you don't get any free rides, right? But so as a result, I think today we're living in an amazing time where you can learn from everybody virtually for free, and then figure out what you like best about everything.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, cannabis isn't going anywhere. Neither is hemp.
Yep. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was there before us. It's going to be there after.
Right. Yeah. It's been legal longer than it's been illegal. And that's unfortunate.
Right.
Oh, one final question.
Sure.
When are you guys coming to the States?
Well, good question. The influence of yoga in the US is tremendous. I mean, the whole Western world at this point. And if you look at a lot of people are selling, like I say, Ayurvedic extracts, curcumin, which is some turmeric, ginger extracts, a lot of these really kind of herbal remedies that were essentially from us, right? So we would like to eventually introduce our cannabis-based, wellness products into the US from Ayurvedic formulations. We don't want to come in with a CBD product or what you already do because that's your deal. You could probably come to India with it, but I don't think you're allowed to import. But in India, we'd love to bring that whole holistic element of Ayurveda and in Ayurveda in general, like Hempstreet is one component of it. But we would like to bring Ayurveda to America.
It'll be good to see, because it seems like the cannabis industry is very black and white these days. There's no real kind of sideline gray area. It's all flower, tinctures, capsules, edibles, and that's it. It'd be nice to see somebody kind of doing some innovation for a change.
We'll be happy to be the first.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, Abhi, appreciate your time. Come in and join us. I know it's fairly early in the morning on Wednesday for you. And it was a pleasure having you to share.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have been on the talk.
Oh yeah. And, I mean, you're welcome anytime. Well, Abhi, thank you again for coming on the show. I hope you have a wonderful day over there, and enjoy the weather. Hopefully, you stay safe with all the rain, and
yep.
We'll see you again.
All right. Stay safe.
All right.